One of the things that makes the Joseph story so powerful is that it touches on some of the things that lie very close to where we live and the questions that we ask. Joseph's story is much more dramatic than many of our stories are, and yet here is a man betrayed by his brothers who are apparently successful. The wrong people win. They seem to get away with ugliness and evil. And where's God in all of that? How does this work out? We live in a world, and some of us know betrayal firsthand, and we could probably tell long stories. Joseph knew betrayal, and yet God was in the midst of all of it. He didn't see it. I am sure that he was as puzzled and confused as any person could be as he was heartbrokenly being carried away as a slave to a foreign country, to a life he had no idea of. And what about those dreams that God had made? As I said, our stories may not be nearly as dramatic, but there are times that we wonder, why do the wrong people seem to win? Why do bad people experience good things? Why do good people experience bad things? And that's a story that runs through the Bible, or a question that does. But Joseph comes as close, not in telling us in terms of truth, but in showing it lived out in life. That God is at work, even in the midst of human evil and deep human sin and our own frailties and our own weaknesses. And he is going to accomplish his purposes. So this morning we're again, or on Sunday, we're again in Genesis chapter 37, and we're going to be looking at the selling of Joseph, and the story doesn't come to an end here. As a matter of fact, we're left at the end of the chapter with, if we didn't know the end of the story, it must be all over. And yet God is powerfully and sovereignly at work in his mysterious ways for his purposes. And I can learn a lot from Joseph if I just sit and listen in a larger way to what God has to say. So I hope that as you personally look at this passage, and then as your group thinks through this passage, God will make himself real to you in new and fresh ways. You meant it for evil. God meant it for good. Is that happening in your life? Even in something very hard you're dealing with right now. Have a good time as you think about God's Word and talk about it together.